Book 1. My best friend, Lizzy Blake, was raped and ended up taking her own life. But I decided to protect the rapist's identity. I still remember her mother kneeling on my doorstep, begging me to tell her what really happened. I shut the door in her face. When the villagers came demanding answers, I released my dog to chase them away. A decade passed. I was dying, bedridden, when my other best friend, Ivana Sinclair, returned to the village. Once an ordinary girl, she had become one of the most powerful women in the country, and she came back carrying vengeance in her heart. The first thing she did was drag me onto a public stage, the kind reserved for criminals awaiting judgment. "Selina," she said, her voice echoing through the crowd, "you heartless coward who shielded a monster. Lizzy and I were fools to ever call you our friend. 10 years, Selina. 10 years since Lizzy died, and you've let her killer walk free." She lifted a sleek, silver device. "This is the memory extractor I created. Today, I'll use it to show everyone whose face you've been protecting." But when the image appeared on the massive screen behind us, Ivana's expression drained of all color. The stage she'd built was enormous. The entire town had gathered, filling every corner of the square. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder, cameras flashing as the live stream reached every major platform. I was already half dead, surviving only through medication and nutrient drips, yet they hauled me into that square as if I were a criminal. A man broke through the crowd, his face twisted with rage. He seized my throat, shouting, "Selina, why did you defend that monster? You destroyed my family. You should have been the one to die." His grip tightened until my vision began to fade. The crowd's fury grew louder. "She knew who the rapist was and stayed silent," someone shouted. Her friend begged for justice before she drowned herself. Even her mother knelt at her door, and she turned her away. "She's vile, heartless, inhuman." Every word cut into me like glass. Ivana stood at the front, her brows furrowed. Other than Lizzy's grieving parents, no one despised me more than she did. 10 years ago, Lizzy, Ivana, and I were inseparable. Then Lizzy's body was found in the woods near my house, and everything shattered. Her suicide note said she'd been attacked, and that I had seen the man responsible. From that day on, everyone believed I'd protected the rapist. And the truth was they were right. Ivana stepped closer, her voice trembling with fury. "Selina, I'll give you one last chance. Name him, and surrender to the police. It's not too late." She glanced at the machine beside her. "Once this starts, the pulses will crush your bones over and over again. You won't even have time to scream." My heart froze. I cried out, "Ivana, don't do this. You can't look into my memories." She gripped my wrist hard enough to leave bruises. "Afraid now? You should have thought of that before. Lizzy deserves justice." Tears blurred my sight as I whispered, "Please, Ivana, if you see my memories, you'll regret it." Her laugh was hollow, bitter. "Regret? The only thing I regret is ever trusting you." The guard shoved me into a cold metal chair. Shackles snapped shut around my wrists and ankles. I fought to move, but a heavy helmet was lowered onto my head. Needles pricked into my scalp like ice, piercing deep into my thoughts. I screamed as agony ripped through me, my body trembling violently. It felt like my very soul was being torn apart. Even with the machine whirring, the crowd stayed furious. Rotten fruit and spoiled eggs arced through the air, splattering the stage as the villagers shouted their accusations. "Fake friend, protector of a rapist. Go rot in hell, witch." On the giant screen, my memories began to roll backwards, one by one. The first clip scene brought everyone back to 3 days after Lizzy's death. They had dragged me to her wake, surrounding me with demands. Some spat, others hurled stones. One person yanked my arm, another tore my hair until it tangled. Fists rained down on me until my skin was a map of bruises. I ran, the village chasing me like I was the criminal. When I looked back, smoke curled into the sky, my house a burning silhouette, set alight by those same hands. I could only stand there and watch. Homeless and terrified, I fled with Bruno, my dog, into the forest. But the villagers found us again. They killed Bruno, then used his body to make a pot of soup, right before my eyes. I clutched one of his bones and sobbed until my lungs felt like they would collapse. I was only 16 then, alone in the world, with no parents to turn to. Ivana's voice came from the speakers, cold and cutting. "Selina, do you think you deserve pity? Did you think people would treat you better if you hit a rapist?" The crowd answered for her, piling on the blame. She has no shame, pretending to be innocent, someone spat. She helped a criminal. She deserves this. Against that chorus, the screen shifted to a memory that showed Lizzy laughing on a snowy slope, flinging a snowball and shouting, "Catch this." Her bright face filled the screen. Lizzy's father collapsed in front of it, sobbing, his grief renewed by that single, frozen smile. After Lizzy died, his hair had gone white, and each day he marched to the police asking, "Have you found the person who did this?" The officers always shook their heads. Back then, the village had no cameras, my home stood apart, and no one could say for certain who had followed Lizzy that night. Only one person knew the truth. Only I did. The footage showed me kneeling before the mountain god statue, hands clasped as I prayed for Lizzy's safety, asking that our friendship last forever. Ivana's face contorted at the image. "How dare you lie, pretending to care," she hissed. A new memory flickered, the one where I slipped the mango Lizzy had given me into the trash. The crowd exploded.
Fake.
She accepted it for show and then tossed it behind her back. Someone cried. The murmurs grew into a roar, each accusation chipping away at whatever sympathy might have remained. Voices swelled. Ivana and Lizzy treated her kindly. How could she repay them like this? She's selfish, cold-hearted. Ivana knew of my mango allergy, but she kept that detail to herself and let the crowd savage me instead. She never imagined Ivana would return rich and ruthless. A villager breathed. "Keep it up, Miss Sinclair. Show us the rapist's face," they demanded. The memory shifted, and I heard Ivana's raw cries through the speakers. "Lizzy, please don't leave us." It was the day they pulled Lizzy from the river, rain slashing down like grief. Ivana and I knelt by her and wept until our chests ached. Her body had swollen in the water, cold and stiff, nothing like the lively girl we remembered. I went home in a stupor and curled into a corner, the pain a physical thing. I beat at my chest and howled, "Lizzy, how could you die?" My brokenness bled through the screen, and for a moment the crowd faltered, stunned by the depth of my grief. But then anger rose again. Lizzy's father, Adam, accused me bitterly. She was putting on a show. He ground his teeth and reminded everyone that Lizzy's mother had knelt at my door until her knees bled, and I had not opened it once. She even set dogs on people. "Who can call that a good person?" he raged. Lizzy's mother, Maya, appeared on the screen too, hair unkempt, clutching a doll and repeating, "Be brave, Lizzy, don't be afraid." Her voice made the crowd's fury thunderous once more. Ivana's face went pale, then flushed red with rage. She stepped up, shaking me until my teeth rattled, her eyes wide with grief. "This is what you caused," she shouted. "You had no parents, and we raised you from 7 because we felt sorry for you. Is this how you repay us?" She slapped me hard, fury and sorrow colliding in every movement. Tears spilled from her eyes as she accused me. "You drove Lizzy to this. You killed her, Selina." The hatred in her gaze cut deep. For Ivana, Lizzy's death had become a storm that wrecked everything she held dear, and she had lived inside that storm ever since. Then, as if steeling herself, she wiped her face and hardened into determination. "I will not stop until I find the bastard who raped my friend," she vowed, voice low and relentless. "When I find him, I will drag you and that monster down together." She ordered the text to widen the scan. Impatience replaced her grief. The red needle on the machine climbed, and the tiny pins in the helmet sank deeper into my head. Pain flared, sharper and closer than before, the room narrowing to white noise and the machinery's steady, merciless hum.
"Ah!"
I screamed, the sound tearing from my chest. A brutal jolt of electricity struck my brain. White light exploded behind my eyes, and my body trembled violently. I struggled, but heavy chains held my wrists and ankles tight. Blood ran down my scalp, dripping onto the cold metal of the chair. On the big screen, memories flashed wildly. Classrooms, streams, snowy mountains, happy times of Ivana, Lizzy, and me together. Yet, the night Lizzy was attacked never appeared. Whispers rose through the crowd. Even the live chat filled with questions. Why isn't that memory showing? Didn't Lizzy say Selina knew the rapist? Ivana frowned, turning to her tech team. What's happening? Why can't we see that night? One tech wiped his sweat-streaked forehead. Miss Sinclair, she's resisting the system. That memory, she's not letting it be pulled. Ivana's eyes sharpened, cold and hard. She slammed her hand on the table. Selina, even now you're fighting? Who are you protecting so fiercely? 10 years ago, she had screamed the same words. After Lizzie's note went public, the town had turned against me. People demanded the rapist's identity. Ivana had doubted me first, but within a day, she had begun to suspect the truth. Only she knew I had hidden in a cave with Bruno. When the villagers found us, they skinned him alive. I had begged her to stop them. Instead, she picked up a stick and struck my head until my vision blurred with blood. Selina, she had shouted then, eyes blazing, we treated you as a friend. How could you give up your best friend to protect a rapist? That night, the villagers nearly killed me. Ivana's mother pulled her away, and 2 days later their family left the province, never to return. Now, Ivana's gaze burned with hatred. She raised her hand, cold and unflinching. Expand the extraction. I will not stop until the truth comes out. A tech hesitated. Miss Sinclair, her body is fragile. If we widen the skin further, she may not survive. Ivana's laugh was disdainful. She can't handle it? Her life or death means nothing. People like her better if they all die. The techs raised the machine settings. The hum grew louder. The tiny pins pressed deeper into my skull. Ah! My scream ripped through the square. Blood poured from my nose, ears, and eyes. My chest burned, my body shaking violently in the chair. The technician stammered, sweat dripping. Miss Sinclair, should we stop? She can't endure much longer. Ivana's face was unreadable as she stared at the screen. Continue, she said, her voice icy. The machine roared. My mind fought, my screams echoing through the square. Ivana! Who is it? Who are you protecting? She screamed, eyes wild. Then, abruptly, she collapsed against my shoulder, sobbing. We are your friends, Selina. Her warm tears fell onto my hands. My heart shattered. My dearest friend, my Iva, was crying. Without thinking, I reached to wipe her face. In that pause, the memory I had hidden for a decade finally appeared on the big screen. The crowd gasped. Faces turned pale as they saw it. Look, it's the crime scene. Oh my God, the truth is finally coming out. People shouted in shock as Ivana turned to the screen. Rain poured down on a dark night. I walked under an umbrella, calling, Who's there? Only rain answered. Thunder cracked, and a shadow raced past. I fell to the wet ground, heart hammering, and the figure disappeared into the darkness. Ivana's eyes widened, fury flaring. Where is the face? Why is it only a back? Why can't we see them? The text tried to sharpen the image, but all that appeared was a soaked back running away. One technician wiped his brow. Miss Sinclair, it seems Selina didn't see the rapist's face. The system can only capture the back view. Ivana's hands trembled. No, that can't be. Lizzie said Selina knew who it was. Her breathing quickened as she forced herself to calm down. Her eyes turned icy. She's hiding something. She blocked that memory. Fine, Selina, she spat. Keep resisting. But today, you cannot escape. She strode to the control panel, overriding her team's warnings. I won't stop until I find the truth. I will drag that monster out. Don't anyone try to stop me. She pressed the button. The screen shifted, but the memory that appeared was not what she expected. Ivana appeared in black, kneeling at her father's grave, placing flowers, lighting a candle. In less than a week, she had lost both her best friend and the father she adored. No tears were left. The crowd murmured, What is this? Why is Ivana's father's funeral showing up? Reporters whispered among themselves. Ivana's father died the day after Lizzie killed herself. Why this memory now? A reporter laughed coldly. She's doing it on purpose, trying to wound Ivana further. Nearby villagers frowned. So cruel. She keeps bringing misfortune wherever she goes. Ivana's face darkened, rage breaking through. Selina, what are you trying to prove? You think showing me my father's death will hurt me? I will not break. My father was the best man in the world, respected and loved. And you had a thief for a father, a madwoman for a mother, and you are a selfish, heartless witch. Ivana shouted, her anger tearing through the square. I sat silently, chest heavy, tears slipping down my face. Then the screen flickered again. Another image appeared. The crowd gasped. Wait, isn't that the jacket the rapist wore? Ivana froze. Her mother, Helen, burned her late husband's clothes. Ivana stared at the jacket, eyes red. Mom, Dad's jacket is torn. Helen turned, shoulders shaking with grief. Ivana clutched the fabric, tears soaking it. I promised to buy Dad new clothes when I grew up. Now he'll never wear them. She sobbed, trembling, and then threw the jacket into the fire. Flames lit her tear-streaked face. The image froze. Ivana stood pale, shaking, staring in disbelief. No, this is impossible. It can't be true. Her team split the screen. One side showed the funeral, the other the shadowy figure of the night of the crime. Gasps filled the square. The two jackets were identical. The rip, the shape, the size, everything matched. Silence fell. All eyes turned to Ivana. Reporters snapped photos furiously. Oh my God, the rapist was Ivana's father? This is unbelievable. The rapist I've been hunting all these years was my own father? Oh my God. Ivana's face went pale, her shock and disbelief written in every line. Suddenly, Lizzy's father lunged forward, grabbing her by the collar. It was him. Your father, Hugo. He killed my daughter. The word daughter snapped Maya out of her daze. Seeing her husband shaking Ivana in rage, she screamed, charging forward and striking Ivana repeatedly with the doll she clutched. Give me back my daughter. Bring her back to me. Ivana froze. Her face drained of color, her mind spinning in chaos. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. In desperation, she shoved Lizzy's parents aside and ran to me. She gripped my collar, her voice raw. Selina, tell me. Tell everyone clearly. Veins bulging on her forehead, her voice breaking, she demanded. The rapist wasn't my father. My dad was good. He was kind, respected. How could he ever be a rapist? I couldn't answer. My body was weak, my voice gone. Ivana turned to the techs, demanding an explanation. They remained firm. The memory was real. It could not be faked. Her whole body trembled. She almost collapsed. In a surge of anger and disbelief, she tore the equipment from me and shook my shoulders violently. Wake up, Selina. Don't pretend. Say something. You're lying, right? You're doing this to get revenge on me, aren't you? Just as she teetered on the edge of hysteria, her mother, Helen, stepped forward. Iva. Her voice trembled with sorrow, her eyes red from crying. Selina isn't lying. Those memories are true. Your father, he was the rapist. The square went completely silent. Ivana froze, voice trembling. Mom, what are you saying? How could Dad be the rapist? Disbelief clouded her eyes, yet tears continued to stream. Helen approached me slowly. Seeing my weak, broken form, her own eyes welled with tears. She bowed deeply and whispered, her voice shaking, Selina, I am sorry. I kept my eyes closed. My throat ached too much for words. All I could think was, sorry. I can't hold on much longer. The crowd gasped. Oh my God, it really was Ivana's father? This is unbelievable. Selina was innocent all along. Whispers spread through the villagers, disbelief mingling with sympathy. 10 years she carried all the blame alone. How did she survive? No parents, no family, living alone in a cave. Even her dog was killed right before her eyes. She's sick now, dying, poor girl. It's so tragic. Ivana stood frozen, struck as if by lightning. Her breath came fast and shallow, her body trembling, eyes wide with shock, face drained of color. Her voice cracked as she whispered, Mom, tell me. Dad. He wasn't the one who caused my friend's death, was he? Helen turned slowly to face Ivana, letting out a long, heavy sigh. Iva, I can't hide it anymore. Her voice trembled as she spoke the painful truth. Selina has suffered enough. It was my fault. I forced her to stay silent. I couldn't bear the thought of dying while knowing my daughter still hated her. Tears filled her eyes as she continued, voice breaking. Your father, he was the one who harassed Lizzy that night. The person responsible for her death wasn't anyone else, Iva. It was him. No. Ivana screamed, collapsing into despair. Tears streamed down her face, her body shaking. The confident, composed woman everyone knew had vanished, replaced by raw grief. How could this happen? She whispered in disbelief. Dad, he died the day after Lizzy, why would he hurt her? She was my best friend. Helen closed her eyes, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Her voice trembled with unbearable pain. His death wasn't an accident. He took his own life out of guilt and fear. The crowd gasped again. That night, he had been drinking with friends. On the way home, he encountered Lizzy, who was on her way to visit Selina. They walked for a while, and then something went terribly wrong. He lost control, and in the end, he did something unforgivable. Helen fell to her knees before Lizzy's parents, sobbing uncontrollably. Adam, Maya, I'm so sorry. It was our family's fault. After that night, Hugo was consumed with guilt. He didn't know how to face you or Lizzy. He wanted to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But when he saw her again at school, Lizzy chose to end her life that same day. She kept bowing, tears soaking her face, begging, Adam, Maya, please forgive us. When Hugo realized he caused Lizzy's death, he couldn't bear the guilt. That's why he jumped from the cliff and ended his life. Ivana's face went pale. Dad, it wasn't an accident? Helen shook her head. I lied. I told everyone it was an accident to protect you, to protect the family. Ivana's tears fell freely. Why, Mom? Why did you lie? Helen looked at her daughter with sorrow-filled eyes. Because your father was gone, Iva, but you and I had to keep living. Her words revealed her pain, but the crowd erupted in anger. So, to protect yourselves, you destroyed Selina's life? You escaped with your daughter and lived in comfort while she suffered for years, hated and tormented by everyone. She never betrayed her friend. She even recognized your father's jacket at the funeral, but stayed silent to protect her friend. Ivana's lips trembled. Her face turned paler by the second, and she collapsed to the ground, tears streaming, shaking her head weakly. No, no, that can't be true, she whispered. Then she turned toward me, still bound to the chair. The weight of guilt overwhelmed her. She stumbled forward, tears falling freely. Selina, I'm so sorry. I managed a weak, pained smile. A single tear mixed with blood slid down my cheek. As Ivana cried, I completely lost consciousness. My mind drifted in pain and confusion. Suddenly, a bright white light appeared, and long-buried memories resurfaced. It was a warm summer afternoon, 10 years ago. The forest behind the school was quiet, the leaves rustling softly. Hugo, Ivana's father, knelt before Lizzy, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. Lizzy, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I didn't mean to. I was drunk. Please don't tell anyone. Lizzy trembled, pale and tear-streaked. She covered her ears and screamed before running away. I had been hiding under a nearby tree, frozen in shock. The truth hit me like a knife, cutting deep into my chest. I wanted to chase her, to call her name, but I feared startling her more. Now, replaying the memory, I wished I could have run to her, shouted her name as loud as I could. But the past couldn't be changed. No matter how much I cried out now, she could never hear me. I wanted to tell her, Lizzy, please don't give up. You still have us. Please live. For 10 years, not a single day had passed without regret. I had never chased after her that day, paralyzed by fear, never realizing my hesitation would leave her completely alone. If I had followed her, if I had stayed by her side, would she still be alive? Would we three still be together, as we had been? But it was too late. Lizzy was gone. I had lost both my best friends. That afternoon, I had been lost in shock, unable to focus in class. After school, Ivana had waved at me happily, smiling. Selina, where's Lizzy? Why did she leave without us? I had looked at her innocent smile and felt panic tighten my chest. I lowered my head and ran away. Then the news came. Lizzy had jumped into the river. She was gone forever. I stood, stunned, replaying her terrified face in my mind. Ivana had thrown herself into my arms, sobbing. Selina, why? Why did Lizzy do that? I held her tight, crying with her, but I didn't dare speak a word. Finally, trembling, I approached Helen. What should we do now? If Iva finds out it was her father? Helen went pale and fell to her knees before me, tears streaming. Selina, please. Don't tell anyone. Lizzy is already gone. If Iva knew, she would never survive it. I nodded, tears falling freely, my hands trembling. From that moment on, I could never speak a word of the truth aloud again. All right, I won't tell a soul. And so I chose silence. I never imagined, though, that before Lizzy died, she had left a letter behind. And in it, she had written my name. That single line dragged me straight into a living nightmare. Everyone turned against me because of it. When the truth finally emerged, that it had been Ivana's father who harmed Lizzy, the family business collapsed and people began blaming Ivana for everything. But none of that mattered to her anymore. Her heart was already shattered by guilt. She knelt before Lizzy's parents, desperate to make amends, but they were so overwhelmed by grief that they lashed out. She was beaten until her head bled and thrown from their home. After that, she wept day after day, trying to atone for what had happened. At a press conference, she publicly admitted her father's crime and handed over her family's fortune to Lizzy's parents. Then she rushed to the hospital, pleading with the doctors to save me. But the doctor could only shake his head. My organs were failing, and the memory extraction had caused irreparable damage. I had less than an hour left. Hearing this, Ivana crumpled beside my bed. "Selina, I'm so sorry. I had no idea, and I judged you all wrong. I was so foolish." She gripped my hand tightly, her tears spilling onto my skin, each drop burning with sorrow. Through her uncontrollable sobs, she shouted, "Why did I ever think you were covering for a criminal? You would never. You were protecting me all along." My mind was fading. The world around me blurred. I tried to speak, but my throat felt locked, and no words would come. All I could hear was her crying. It ached my heart, but in a strange way, it felt comforting. I had carried this secret for 10 long years. I didn't know if it was right or wrong, or whether it had been worth it. But I knew one thing: I had no family since I was a child. Through all the dark years, it had been Lizzy and Ivana who stayed by my side. They were my family. I had already lost Lizzy. I couldn't bear the thought of losing Ivana too. So I kept silent. I took all the blame, living with the hate, the accusations, and the insults. All I ever wanted was for Ivana to live without pain. My suffering didn't matter. But I hadn't expected that she would grow to hate me so deeply. When the villagers attacked me 10 years ago, my body was already broken. Years of surviving alone, without shelter or proper food, had weakened me even more. The fact that I had lived this long was already more than I deserved. I felt so exhausted. All I wanted was to close my eyes and never wake again. Yet this foolish friend of mine was crying so loudly, it almost annoyed me. Even at the very end, she wouldn't let me rest. With my last remaining strength, I lifted my hand and extended my pinky. Ivana's eyes widened in surprise. "Selina? Selina?" I forced my lips to move, my voice rough and weak. "Still friends." Ivana froze for a moment, then tears poured down her cheeks. She hooked her pinky around mine, sobbing, Yes, we're friends, Selina. We'll be friends forever. We'll always be friends." Hearing her words, a rare warmth spread through my heart. At last, we were friends again. Book 2. After my dear friend Rachel Morgan was dragged into the cornfield and attacked, she ended her own life. And I protected her assailant. Rachel had been my closest companion. She sat by my bedside when I was sick, shielded me from bullies, and never let me feel alone. That night, I destroyed the evidence. Everything I did was to conceal a secret I could never share. I was standing by the stove when Rachel's mother burst into the kitchen, her eyes red and filled with anger. "Clara Dawson."
"Why?"
"Rachel was attacked while bringing your birthday cake." I closed my eyes, swallowed the guilt, and without a second thought, pushed the proof into the flames.
"Why?"
"Why did you protect the murderer?" she demanded. "Why burn the cake box? What was in it?" Her fury only intensified. She dragged me to Rachel's funeral parlor. In the black and white photograph, Rachel's face stared back, expressionless. "Linda Harris, I didn't." I began, trying to explain. "We were short on firewood, so I burned the box." "It was useless," I said, hiding the truth. The cake held the murderer's fingerprints. Rachel's mother flung a suicide note at my face. "What is this?" she shouted. "The note says she heard your voice that night, and the monster must have passed your door on his way out." Her eyes were bloodshot as she shoved me closer to the photograph of Rachel hanging. "See for yourself. Look at how tragically she died. You were best friends. She loved you with all her heart. How could you do nothing while she suffered such a horrible fate?" I knew she wanted to provoke my guilt. I struggled to look away and answered as honestly as I could. "Rachel is gone. I mourn her too, but I truly don't know who killed her." "How could I tell you?" 3 days earlier, the day she brought me the birthday cake, she had been attacked outside the cornfield across from my home. No one else had seen it. That night, she took her own life at home, leaving a note that mentioned me. The village suspected I had witnessed the crime. My reputation was already fragile, so everyone assumed I was shielding the culprit. And, in truth, I was. Linda slapped me across the face. Clara, how can you be so cold? Your best friend is dead and you're smiling? Our Rachel had just turned 18 and been accepted into a top university. She was so young, with her whole life ahead of her, and a monster stole it. I remained silent, and her grip on my hand tightened. Clara, why won't you tell the truth? You and Rachel shared everything. She always trusted you. She was murdered. Don't you want justice? I sighed. Linda, no amount of righteousness will conjure the facts. If I knew, I would have told the police. Her face hardened. Do you know how many years someone gets to hide a rapist? I did. Protecting a criminal is a crime in itself. The sentence ranges from 3 to 10 years. I knew all of this, and I still thought it was worth it. I know it's 3 to 10 years, I said calmly. Linda's fury boiled over. She pointed at me, shaking with rage. How dare you protect that monster? She shouted. Once the police uncover the proof, do you think you'll be safe? Aren't you afraid that by then your grandmother will be gone, and there will be no one to care for her? I met her gaze quietly, unflinching. I didn't regret my choice. Not for a second, I shouted. Then let the police handle it. I didn't kill her, so why are you all harassing me? Do you think I'm an easy target just because I have no parents? In the 2 days since Rachel's death, my front door had been battered repeatedly. The villagers clamored, demanding I reveal the murderer. I was exhausted. Rachel's father, Samuel Morgan, finally lost his temper. How can anyone be so heartless? You've been a troublemaker your whole life. Only Rachel ever treated you kindly. And now she's gone, and you have the nerve to talk back? You're worse than pigs and dogs. The crowd joined in, pointing fingers and shouting. I always said she was dangerous. She nearly bit Irwa's ear once. Look at her eyes. She's full of ill intentions. Maybe she saw the rapist herself. Remember when she was little? She said she wanted to kill everyone in the village. I'd lost my parents young and had lived with my elderly grandmother ever since. The children's mockery and the villagers' cruelty had shaped me into someone ruthless in self-defense. But no matter what, the blame always fell on me. Rachel was dead, and instead of seeking justice, the villagers turned on me. A rock struck my head, and blood streamed down. More stones followed, and the mob's fury threatened to tear me apart. No, Clara isn't what you think. It was my childhood friend, Emily Carter. She had always stood by me, just like Rachel. Shielding me from the villagers' blows, she faced the angry crowd with unwavering courage. The three of us are best friends. Clara couldn't have harmed Rachel. Tears welled in her eyes. Clara, I don't believe you'd protect a criminal. You hate seeing anyone hurt. Her gaze pierced me, reading my expression like an open book. Last month, Johnny Baker broke Rachel's hand, and you defended her. How could you shield a murderer? Her smile was twisted, almost menacing, yet I understood. She needed the truth. I brushed her hand away, a hint of mockery on my lips. Yes, I had seen the killer that night. It had been late. I was doing homework, and the wind howled outside. Faint noises came from the cornfield, voices, perhaps. Startled, I called out, "Who's there?" Only silence answered. Then a dark figure flickered past my window. Emily's eyes widened. She stared at me, trying to read my soul. Clara, did you actually see it? Her voice trembled. I nodded, silent. Then stop asking, I thought. Emily shook me, desperate. Who is it? Who are you protecting? We're best friends. Why would you hide a rapist? She had sensed the truth. My carefully constructed cover was slipping. I had to strike first to seize the moral upper hand. Do you really consider me a friend? I asked. Her grip faltered. Clara, what do you mean? I curled my lips. You keep saying you trust me. I told you I didn't see anything, yet you still question me in front of everyone. Is that trust? What about what you and Rachel did behind my back? Don't you think I notice? I'm just the villain who makes you look like saints. Without me, who would prove you're such pure white lotuses? Emily's chest heaved. You really think that of us? Linda Harris, overcome with emotion, flung herself into the coffin, sobbing. Look, this is the friend she protected. She cared for us, nursed us, shared what little she had, and this is how she looks at you. The crowd surged forward, shouting. She's hiding the murderer. Benches were grabbed as weapons. If she won't tell us, we'll force it out. I found it absurd. Were they after justice or revenge? A scream pierced the chaos, and Linda Harris collapsed from fury. The crowd scrambled to carry her away, giving me a chance to slip free. For the next 2 days, I stayed hidden. The police questioned me, but without proof, they couldn't force my confession. On Rachel's funeral day, grief overtook Linda Harris. She leapt into the lake and drowned. The villagers' rage erupted. Samuel Morgan led them to my home. Stones flew, eggs smashed, and manure splashed across me. "You beast! You protected the murderer. You killed our Rachel. You're worse than pigs and dogs. You deserve to have no parents. How can someone so cold live among us? Such a kind girl was murdered because of you. Why weren't you the one violated? I'll let my dog chew your bones if you survive." Fists rose, ready to strike. My frail grandmother screamed at the top of her lungs. "Clara, run." I pushed through the pain, fleeing, but then I stopped dead. A shadow fell across the road ahead. The figure I'd seen that night stood at the lane's edge, motionless, as if waiting. My breath froze. All the insults, stones, and grief condensed into a single heartbeat of dread. My legs refused to move. Fear and recognition held me captive. Outside, Emily waited, holding her huge wolfhound on a short leash. The dog saw me and erupted into furious barking, planting its paws as if ready to spring. My scalp prickled, and I stepped back until the door pressed into my spine. I had been bitten by a dog as a child, so I always feared large dogs, especially Rusty. In the past, Emily would shoo him away when I came to her gate, but today she stood with him facing me, her expression stunned and hard. "Clara," she said, voice flat and dark. "I'll give you one last chance." Who dragged Rachel into the cornfield? I stared at her icy face, pressed my lips shut. "Hurry up," she snapped. "I told you, I don't know," I shouted, squeezing my eyes shut. A second later the chain clattered. Rusty lunged, teeth slamming into my shoulder, tearing flesh with a force that stole my breath. Pain shot through me so fierce that I screamed. I thrashed, but Rusty held on, gnawing like metal, ripping thick strips of skin away. "Emily, are you trying to force a confession?" I cried. Emily's mother rushed forward to pull the dog free, but Emily shoved her away. "Don't help her," she screamed, eyes rimmed red, venom in her stare. She sheltered the murderer. She deserves to die. Her mother tried to cover Emily's mouth, but Emily pushed her off and broke into hysterical sobs. "She killed Rachel. She does not deserve to be our friend. I want her to pay for Rachel's life," she wailed. Rusty's jaws would not loosen. The agony made me howl as I writhed on the dirt like a rag doll. Just then my grandmother burst from the crowd, shrieking, and tried to pry the dog off, but several villagers held her back roughly. "Clara, my granddaughter," Grandma wailed. "Pull the dog away. It's going to kill her." Someone spat. Better if it did. "That heartless creature deserves to be torn apart," another cried. Grandma nearly sank to her knees, begging between gasps. "Emily, pull the dog away. You three grew up together. Why are you doing this to my Clara?" "Clara says she doesn't know. She did not lie. Why don't you believe her?" Grandma pleaded. Emily's eyes filled, but her expression hardened. "I believe her, but what about Rachel? Does Rachel know her best friend sheltered the murderer after her death?" Her gaze went cold, bloodshot, and unrelenting. Clara clearly saw the killer, yet she denied it. Why is she lying? Why is she protecting him? You treated her as a friend, yet she thinks we used her. What kind of friendship is that? Watching Grandma's pleas fail, she stamped her feet in despair. She felt helpless, begging the crowd to spare me. But the villagers simply watched, faces twisted with triumph and accusation. Someone laughed cruelly, another spat on the ground. Blood soaked my shirt and dripped into the dirt, mingling with the dust and their ugly glee. I tasted metal and the sick thrill of their cruelty. Pinned to the ground, I watched Grandma bow and kneel before them, kowtowing again and again. Her silver hair hung loose, her forehead reddened, her voice breaking. "Please spare my granddaughter. Our Clara is not a bad girl. She did not lie. Do not do this to her." Grandma had never bowed to anyone before, but for my sake she accepted humiliation, begging for mercy. In that moment my heart tore. I looked at Emily, arms folded, watching with a cold, unreadable gaze. Hatred swelled in me like a rising tide. "Grandma, do not kneel." I roared, a raw, piercing sound. "Do you want to know who the murderer is?" "I will tell you." Emily finally called the wolfhound back, leaving only the coppery scent of blood and the rasp of my breathing in the air. No one met my eyes except Grandma. The others watched as if the blood on me were nothing more than deserved dirt. Grandma helped me inside, hands trembling as she fetched a basin of hot water and soap. She tried to wash the wounds, but Emily impatiently knocked the soap from her fingers and snapped, "Stop wasting time. Clara, hurry up." "Who dragged Rachel into the cornfield?" she demanded. Others echoed the demand. I leaned against the wall, bleeding and bone-tired. "You really want to know? Don't regret it," I said. Emily's brow tightened. "Stop teasing and tell me," she said. I smiled, cold and small with the taste of payback. "You all know who the rapist is," I said. "It's your father, Richard Carter." Emily went white. Before she could answer, I jabbed a finger at several villagers and spat. "And you, and you, and you. You are all rapists." Shouts rose around me. "You little bitch, stop talking nonsense," someone yelled. "You're mad. You're a rabid dog," another cried. "Robert Carter is a respected teacher, a man of principled character," someone defended. "His daughter died in an accident while he was taking her to the hospital, and now you smear him?" Emily stepped forward, voice low and fierce. "Clara." "Stop it," others snapped. "Tell us why you are shielding a criminal." I grinned, merciless. "You say I saw it, so I saw it. In your eyes I am the villain, a protector of criminals, so that is what I will be. Or think of it this way. I am jealous of you. I hate your hypocrisy. I do not want your charity. I wish you were all dead." Emily stared without blinking. "Clara, we grew up together. The moment you twitch, I can read you. You repay favors tenfold or 100-fold, she said, voice sharp. "Remember when I gave you a box of crayons and you cried? You held on to that memory for years. How could you be jealous of us?" She searched me, accusing. "Rachel cared for you, and you repaid her kindness. If anything happened to Rachel, you would have ripped the villains apart. There must be a deeper reason you are hiding this." My smile thinned. "You are a clever talker, but not a detective. Those are only guesses." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, scoffs and whispers mingling like fog. The air felt thick with accusation. I tasted blood and bile. Faces blurred into one shape of hatred. Grandma dabbed at my wounds with trembling hands, soap and dirt smeared across my skin. Shame settled into me, and beneath that a hollow, fierce relief, my secret still buried for now. Emily studied my eyes, fury and confusion warring there. Her patience was cracking right before everyone.